Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into it with Friedrich Nietzsche's The Antichrist. It was written back in 1888. We're using listener excerpts and also H.L. Mencken's introduction to sort of unpack Nietzsche's, well, famously harsh critique of Christianity.
Yes, it's an absolutely crucial text in his philosophy. He's directly taking on these ancient beliefs. And central to it all is his concept of the will to power.
Right, the will to power.
Yeah, and it's important to understand it's not just, wanting to dominate people or simple brute strength. For Nietzsche, it's more fundamental. It's like the basic creative force of life itself, this constant push to overcome, to grow, to, well, leave your mark on the world. It's in everything alive, this drive.
Okay, that's a big idea right there. So if that's the lens he's using, how does he then look at morality? How does he redefine, say, good and bad?
Well, right in section 2, he lays it out. Good is basically anything that ramps up this will to power, that feeling of strength, genuine inner strength. Bad is, well, anything that comes from weakness, from a kind of decay of that vital force. Even happiness gets redefined. It's not just being content or peaceful.
No.
For him, happiness is that feeling, that almost a physical sensation of power increasing, like when you overcome something difficult.
Right, that feeling of triumph.
Exactly. And this is the standard he uses to judge Christianity. He argues, particularly in sections 5 to 7, that it essentially wages a kind of war against what he calls humanity's higher type.
How so?
By labeling natural, life-affirming instincts as sins and by championing the weak, the suffering, instead of strength.
Okay, so building on that critique, he gets really specific about pity, doesn't he? I remember reading section 7, and he calls it, a promoter of decadence, even a technique of nihilism. Why was he so against pity?
Yes, he was incredibly critical.
Yeah.
He saw pity as undermining strength, precisely because it tries to soothe suffering rather than letting individuals struggle and grow stronger through that struggle.
So the struggle itself is valuable.
For Nietzsche, yes, essential. Calling it a technique of nihilism means he thought pity essentially drains life of meaning by propping up weakness, by preserving what he felt should naturally fade away. It values weakness over strength.
Wow.
And then, in section 15, he just dismisses core concepts like God, the soul, and afterlife, sin, salvation. He calls them all imaginary, just constructs.
Imaginary constructs used for control.
That seems to be his implication. And in section 18, he outright calls the Christian concept of God against life because it devalues this world in favor of a supposed next one.
He doesn't stop there, though. He applies this critique to history itself. Sections 58, 59. He accuses Christianity of destroying the Roman Empire, calling it a vampire.
He does. He saw Rome's sophisticated organization, its science, its art, as representing a stronger set of values, maybe aristocratic values. So Christianity's victory wasn't progress in his eyes. It was the triumph of what he termed a slave morality, undermining the structures that allowed strong individuals to thrive.
And he mentions the Moors in Spain, too.
Yes, in section 60. He actually thought Moorish civilization, with its intellectual and artistic achievements, was perhaps even more valuable than Rome's. And he saw Christianity as crushing that.
Focusing on the otherworldly at the expense of worldly achievement.
That seems to be the argument. And he wasn't finished. He then points to Martin Luther and the Reformation in section 61.
What was his issue there?
He felt the Reformation actually derailed the Renaissance. He saw the Renaissance as this great attempt to bring back those stronger, ancient, life-affirming values. Luther, in his view, threw a wrench in the works. For Nietzsche, the decline of religion was really the first necessary step towards real human freedom. He accused religious leaders of twisting truth, pushing faith, as a way to avoid facing hard realities.
But he wasn't only tearing things down. He did offer an alternative, didn't he? The higher type, the Übermensch.
That's right, in sections 3 and 4. And it's crucial. This isn't some automatic next step in evolution. It's more like a potential. An individual who fully embraces life, all its difficulties, creates their own values, moves beyond conventional morality, someone self-directed.
And he points to the Code of Manu. That's quite controversial.
Extremely. He mentions it in section 57, not necessarily endorsing its content wholesale, but perhaps seeing it as a historical example of a society with a clear hierarchy that, in his view, could allow such superior individuals to emerge. It's a difficult passage.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway?
Well, the Antichrist is undeniably provocative, often uncomfortable, but it forces you, doesn't it, to really question the values and truths we often take for granted. His whole philosophy pushes for new ways to think about strength, weakness, morality itself, and maybe even the purpose of living.
It certainly does. And maybe it leaves you, our listener, with a powerful question to chew on. Are values really fixed, absolute things? Or are they constantly shifting, changing based on time, on circumstances, and maybe, as Nietzsche suggests, on how we understand power and that fundamental drive for life? Something to think about on your own deep dives.